In the shadows of history lie tales that were never meant to fade, stories of creatures so strange, so powerful, that time itself tried to erase them. From ancient manuscripts to long-lost carvings, these legends whisper of monsters that once roamed our world and may still linger in the dark corners of forgotten lands. Tonight, we uncover the truth behind the myths, the sightings, and the chilling evidence that defies explanation. This is Lost Legends, forgotten monsters that time erased. Prepare to journey into the unknown, where fact and folklore intertwine, and the forgotten become terrifyingly real. Lost Legends, forgotten monsters that time erased. Throughout human history, stories of monsters have shaped the beliefs, fears, and imaginations of entire civilizations. Some of these creatures have endured. Dragons, vampires, werewolves, and sea serpents still dominate our myths and movies. But others have slipped into obscurity, buried under layers of forgotten folklore, lost manuscripts, and eroded oral traditions. These are the forgotten monsters that time erased, beings once feared or revered, whose names once trembled on human lips, now nearly vanished from cultural memory. This exploration revives their tales, uncovering how they once lived in human storytelling, why they faded, and what their disappearance reveals about humanity's changing relationship with myth and mystery. 1. The nature of forgotten monsters. Before delving into specific examples, it's crucial to understand how monsters are forgotten. A monster isn't only a creature of teeth and claws. It's a symbol of what a culture fears, desires, or cannot explain. When societies evolve, their fears change. What once terrified ancient farmers or sailors might no longer seem relevant to a digital age population. As time passes, the myths tied to vanished landscapes, lost languages, or extinct animals lose their grip on imagination. Many ancient monsters were tied to geography, the forests, mountains, rivers, and seas that shaped early civilizations. When those environments were deforested, colonized, or reinterpreted through science, their monsters faded. Likewise, as religions and empires rose and fell, so too did their mythic beasts. Each forgotten monster represents a cultural extinction of sorts, a vanished worldview erased from the collective psyche. 2. The Ahuizotl, the drowned guardian of the Aztecs. Among the lost monsters of Mesoamerica lurks the Ahuizotl, a creature described in Aztec codices as an amphibious beast with a dog-like body, waterproof fur, and a human-like hand at the end of its tail. The Ahuizotl lived in the lakes and rivers of the Valley of Mexico, waiting to drag unsuspecting victims beneath the surface. Yet, paradoxically, it wasn't merely evil. The Aztecs believed it guarded the sacred fish and amphibians of the gods, punishing those who took more than they needed. Victims of the Ahuizotl were said to be chosen by the rain god Tlaloc. Their bodies, when recovered, would show no wounds but lacked eyes, teeth, and nails, removed as offerings to the divine. Priests viewed such deaths not as tragedy, but as sacred sacrifice. After the fall of the Aztec Empire, Spanish colonizers dismissed the Ahuizotl as superstition. Lakes were drained, and native myths were suppressed by Catholic doctrine. Without its sacred waters or storytellers, the Ahuizotl faded into obscurity. Today, only a handful of folklorists and Nahuatl scholars remember its tale, a mythic guardian erased alongside the lakes that once sustained its legend. 3. The Mapinguari, the forest's forgotten giant. Deep within the Amazon, tribal legends speak of a creature called the Mapinguari, a massive, foul-smelling, ape-like being with one eye, a mouth in its belly, and thick, armor-like skin impervious to arrows. Its scream was said to drive men mad, and its presence heralded both awe and danger. Some tribes considered it a forest guardian, punishing hunters who killed more than they needed. Others believed it was the spirit of a shaman cursed to walk the earth forever. While modern cryptozoologists occasionally link the Mapinguari to prehistoric ground sloths, the true essence of the monster lies in its symbolism. The Mapinguari embodies the voice of the rainforest itself, wild, ancient, and vengeful. But as deforestation spread across the Amazon and indigenous languages disappeared, so too did this myth. The creature's lore survived only in scattered oral accounts, often dismissed as primitive superstition by outsiders. In reality, the Mapinguari was a story of balance, a warning that when nature is disrespected, it will respond in monstrous form. Its fading marks not only the loss of a monster, but the silencing of a culture's ecological wisdom. For the Nucklavi, the demon of the sea spray. From the stormy shores of the Orkney Islands in Scotland comes one of the most grotesque monsters in Celtic lore, the Nucklavi. It was said to be a horse-like demon with a rider fused into its back, both sharing the same skinless body. Black veins pulsed across its exposed muscles, and its breath could wither crops and sicken livestock. The creature emerged from the sea, bringing disease and drought wherever it roamed. To the Arcadians, the Nucklavi represented the chaotic, destructive power of the ocean, the very force their survival depended on. Fishermen feared angering it by polluting the waters or neglecting their rituals. However, as Christianity and modernization reshaped the islands, old sea taboos vanished. With the arrival of modern boats, coastal drainage, and new religious ideals, the myth lost its context. What was once a living warning about respect for nature became a ghost story. The Nucklavi, once a tangible terror tied to daily life, now lingers only in old folklore books and local legends, its monstrous image fading with each generation that forgets the sea's old power. 5. The Kishi, the two-faced predator of Angola. African folklore, too, holds its share of forgotten horrors. The Kishi, from Angolan legend, was a shape-shifting demon known for its dual faces, one that appeared human and charming, and another hidden behind. That was the face of a hyena. The Kishi used its human face to lure victims, especially women, before turning to devour them with its beastly side. It's a story of deception, temptation, and hidden danger, a theme that resonates with universal human fears. The hyena symbolism in African cultures often represents cunning and forbidden power, so the Kishi embodied the moral warning against being seduced by appearances. But colonization and the spread of Christianity reframed African cosmology. Indigenous stories, like the Kishis, were suppressed or labeled pagan by missionaries. As oral storytellers disappeared under cultural assimilation, so too did many monsters like the Kishi. The tale survives in fragments, now studied mostly by ethnographers rather than told around village fires. Its disappearance marks how colonization didn't just erase people's lands, but their mythic guardians and warnings. 6. The Bunyip, the vanishing terror of the Billabongs. In the Dreamtime stories of the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, the Bunyip haunted the swamps, billabongs, and riverbeds. Descriptions vary. Sometimes it had the head of a dog, the body of a horse, or flippers and tusks, but its essence was constant. It was a creature of water, mystery, and vengeance. The Bunyip punished those who disrespected sacred waters or broke tribal taboos. To some, it was a spiritual guardian, to others, a man-eating monster. Early European settlers, upon hearing these stories, tried to rationalize them as sightings of seals, extinct marsupials, or unknown species. But as colonial expansion dried up waterholes and displaced Aboriginal peoples, the Bunyip's domain vanished. Today, the Bunyip is mostly seen as a relic of Australian folklore, featured in children's books or tourist attractions, but stripped of its sacred meaning. It was never just a monster. It was a mythic reminder of balance between people and place. Its fading reflects the silencing of one of the world's oldest storytelling traditions. 7. The Wendigo, the spirit that was tamed by popular culture. Unlike some monsters that vanished entirely, others survived, but in distorted form. The Wendigo of Algonquian legend once symbolized greed and spiritual corruption. Born from the wilderness of North America, it was said to be a human consumed by insatiable hunger, transformed into a skeletal, ice-hearted cannibal spirit. It emerged in times of famine, when survival blurred moral boundaries. The Wendigo was not merely a cannibal. It was the embodiment of unrestrained consumption. But in modern horror fiction, the Wendigo has become a generic creature of the woods, stripped of its deep moral message. The cultural context, warnings about community, sustainability, and the balance between survival and greed, was lost under Hollywood's claws and fangs. In this way, the Wendigo is half forgotten. Its name survives, but its soul has been erased. It shows that monsters don't always vanish. They sometimes mutate into hollow echoes of their former selves. 8. Why monsters disappear. The disappearance of monsters is rarely accidental. It reflects shifts in worldview, science, religion, and power. Scientific rationalism. As humans began to categorize the world through biology and physics, many myths were reinterpreted or dismissed. Sea serpents became giant squids, dragons became dinosaur fossils, and forest spirits became metaphors for fear of the unknown. Colonization and cultural erasure. When empires expanded, they not only conquered land, but language and lore. Indigenous monsters were often rebranded as devils or demons under Christian theology, stripping them of nuance and sacred meaning. Environmental change. Many monsters were tied to specific landscapes, swamps, mountains, oceans. As these environments disappeared, so too did their myths. When the sacred lakes of Mexico were drained, the Ahuizotl drowned with them. When the Amazon shrinks, the Mapinguari's forest voice grows quieter. Modern disbelief. The more humans illuminate the darkness with technology, the fewer places monsters have to hide. Yet paradoxically, our fascination with them never fades. It merely transforms. Instead of campfire tales, we now tell monster stories through screens and simulations. 9. The psychological and cultural role of forgotten monsters. Even if these monsters are gone from memory, the psychological patterns that created them remain. Monsters serve as mirrors to human behavior. They embody what we fear most about ourselves. The Ahuizotl punished greed. The Kishi warned against deception. The Naklavi reminded people of nature's wrath. When such myths vanish, society loses more than just scary stories. It loses encoded wisdom. Forgotten monsters once acted as moral teachers and environmental guardians. Their erasure leaves modern humans more disconnected from the natural and spiritual world. Psychologists suggest that myths help societies externalize inner conflicts, turning abstract fears into tangible creatures. Without them, our fears go unspoken, manifesting in new forms like dystopian AI, pandemics, or alien invasions. In essence, humanity never stops inventing monsters. It merely trades the old for the new. 10. The modern resurrection of forgotten beasts. In recent decades, scholars, filmmakers, and folklorists have begun reviving lost monsters. Digital archives, linguistic studies, and indigenous storytelling revivals are breathing new life into forgotten legends. Artists are illustrating creatures like the Ahuizotl or Mapinguari Inu, while YouTube documentaries and podcasts bring obscure folklore to global audiences. Yet, this revival raises a moral question. Can a monster be resurrected without distorting its essence? When Western creators reimagine indigenous myths for entertainment, they risk repeating the same erasure they claim to undo. True revival requires listening to the cultures that birthed these legends, letting them tell their own stories in their own voices. Some indigenous storytellers argue that bringing back these monsters isn't about horror, but about healing. By remembering these beings, people reconnect with their ancestors, their land, and their values. In this sense, resurrecting forgotten monsters is a way of restoring cultural memory. 11. The monsters humanity will forget next. If history repeats itself, today's urban legends and cryptids may be tomorrow's forgotten monsters. As society evolves, new myths will rise and old ones will fade. The Mothman, Chupacabra, and Jersey Devil, monsters of modern folklore, may vanish as cities expand and forests shrink. What will future generations remember? Possibly none of them. But their essence will persist in new forms: digital myths, artificial intelligences, or space anomalies. Humanity's need to personify its fears will never end. The monsters may change, but the shadows they cast remain. 12. The echoes of the erased. The forgotten monsters of the world, the Ahuizotl, Mapinguari, Naklavi, Kishi, and countless others, represent more than lost stories. They are echoes of extinct ecosystems, silenced languages, and vanishing worldviews. Each one tells us something profound about humanity's past relationship with fear, morality, and nature. Time may erase names and tales, but it cannot erase the need that created them. The monster is eternal, not as a creature of flesh and bone, but as a reflection of the human condition. Every age invents its own beasts, and every generation forgets the ones before. To remember them is to remember ourselves, to reconnect with the parts of human imagination that science and progress have buried. Because somewhere in the depths of forgotten waters, shadowed forests, and dusty archives, the monsters still wait, half memory, half myth, reminding us that the line between the known and the unknown is thinner than we dare to believe. If those sightings didn't send chills down your spine, nothing will. The evidence is stronger than ever, and 2025 might just be the year the truth finally breaks free from the shadows. What do you believe? Are these monsters real, or is there still another explanation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unbelievable investigations into the unknown. Until next time, keep your cameras ready and your eyes open, because the next monster sighting could happen closer than you think. This is 2025 Monster Sightings, the evidence they can't deny.